Really, I think I used the word kismet yesterday when I was kind of describing that. We started talking again. You wondered if I was into repeat offenders, and definitely always interested. Especially I kind of feel we should have many repeat offenses with the rapport we have. But I love the fact that I find you to be really professional and really on top of your communication. I'm horrible at all of that stuff. Like you would think I would have to be better at it, and I feel I'm exactly good enough to facilitate this project of mine, but I'm not the best at like keeping up with people and even being responsive. So the fact that you kind of took the initiative to get us both back on a call, I respect that an insane amount. I really appreciate it. But when you emailed me, it made me think of how I think you have a ton of skills. One of the ones that I like the most is you always have such a like concise and elegant way of wording your mission kind of. And what you had said to me is that there have been like big changes with you and Minor Genius. You moved away from Healer Dad towards an imprint accidental scene. And I get the like I can assume what you mean, but I'm so interested to have you explain exactly what you mean because I think the words you use and the way you describe stuff is so precise, and it's so nice when people are able to like give that much meaning and kind of backstory to what they're doing. A lot of people, me included, if you ask them about what they've been building or what they're working on, they kind of fumble with the words and say like I don't know, or it's better left unsaid. And it's not really, but I'll say that to kind of dodge a question. But I know you're super good at explaining what you're doing. So if you want to explain to me and maybe even the people listening, what is the shift? Like what I guess we all know what the focus was, but what's the focus now?
Yeah, well, I think for anyone who's just tapping in, I had a very long arc in my professional and creative and spiritual career, as I guess you could say like maybe a sort of spiritual creative director for people, helping them produce things in the outside world while also um, refining their psychic landscape. That's a long way to say that, at the time, I thought that coaching was a good use of my talents. And I think what I've come to realize is that it's much more exciting for me to create spaces and artifacts that people want to be a part of than it is to kind of explain life to them.
I mean, very noble, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's cool to be like aware, like self-aware of the project and know like maybe it was helping certain people, but then seeing maybe a new approach is better for you and then better for like people, fans of what you're doing. They might take away more from the new approach than they would have from the old one. Although I mean, from all the people I've talked to, and from what I was telling you before we recorded the like outreach from the first time we were on, it seemed like a lot of people were really helped by the initial approach.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm very flattered and appreciative anytime people can take anything away from something that I've produced. I think for me, when I sort of looked at where the energy was in our culture, I saw in myself like a longing to be a part of a scene that felt really alive and dynamic and like was kind of big enough where people could jump into it now, but was also small enough where you could be a participant. And I think that that's a really rare and like unusual and interesting sort of energy. Like things kind of get big quickly nowadays, and so it turns folks into more passive consumers, like your classic podcast that you listen to while you're vacuuming type of vibe, which is cool. But I found that for me and for the folks that are resonating with Minor Genius, the parties that we're doing and the zines that we're publishing and the artifacts that we're creating, like people really seem to get an energy off of them, not as me, Elliot, as like the star, but more like, oh, cool, like I recognize myself in this, and I could be friends with other people here because we have other things in common. And I think for me, that's just a way more interesting role in culture is, sort of being a host as opposed to like a using air quotes here, but a guru or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't have really thought of that until now, but do you think like the way it was operating before, you were kind of put yourself like maybe not in like a narcissistic way or anything, but you were more the main character of Minor Genius before, and then now is it more for everyone instead of? I mean, as I'm saying, I'm fumbling around with it because I don't. It didn't really ever seem like it was all about you at all, but is it more about the people now than it is about you compared to like a year ago, let's say?
I mean, I think the truth is I just became a lot less afraid of sharing my point of view publicly. Like when you're in a sort of facilitator client relationship, it's very intimate, it's just two of you in there talking about things. And while I think that some good things can come out of that, for me, I was much more, it seemed like a more fun game to play to put my point of view out into culture and into rooms and into artifacts as opposed to into these kind of like closed door sessions.
I mean, I get it for sure, and I love to play around with like the meaning of what I'm doing and tweak it a bit behind the scenes. But like to me, it just seemed like it was like really perfect how it was. And like, do you think this change stemmed more from you and the way you felt about it more than like the feedback you got from people who were involved with it?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of people were not like upset, but I think that when you've cultivated a relationship with someone as like emotionally safe healer dad who can kind of comfort them and help them walk through difficult phases, when you stop being that person, it's very natural that there's a sort of in-between period where they need to adjust to you being a different version of yourself. And I think that's true for all of us. I think that's just a part of becoming more refined in your life as a grown up is like a lot of the folks that connected with you as an older version, like they're not all going to come into the new phase. But the ones that do, they can kind of maybe get excited about the fact that you've changed because I think it kind of gives them permission to change in their own way, you know?
Yeah, no, that is a very very nice way to look at it, like very logical. And makes it maybe easier to like digest, I guess. I wonder, I mean, just based on the nature of what you're doing, I know that you're very like kind of close and open with the people that you've been helping. Did you get like, I guess you don't have to name anything fully like specific, but did people express that they were either like kind of happy with the way it was going, or did people express like any like that they didn't like what it was becoming, or maybe now they didn't trust it as much because it was changing? Like what was the feedback you got from the people?
Overall, people were pretty psyched because I think sometimes in your life you get kind of miscast into a role that doesn't quite fit you. And for me, and I think for a lot of folks listening, we're the people that have always been about making stuff. We're the people that are religious about clothing and music and culture and spaces. And when we look at the things that changed our lives, they were always things, at least for me, they were always things that existed in culture. And so, again, coaching in that world is very interior coded. And so I think it seemed very natural for me and for people that were in the minor genius orbit to be like, yeah, dude, like you should be doing more zines. You should be hosting more nights because that's kind of always who you've been. Um, and I think less about me and more about, the folks that are listening that are a part of our extended scene. Like, don't we need more cool things in the world? Like, I think it's kind of a dark time for soul and hipness. And so maybe I felt a little bit of a calling to just make more stuff as a counterbalance to just how, I don't know, sort of lame things have become.
Yeah, I definitely like 1,000% agree with that, and I really love that you kind of fell the weight of that and put that a bit on your shoulders, did your part. Like, there aren't enough cool things, so it's cool that you set out to contribute something. I feel I know a ton of people that are very capable of creating cool things. Like they have interesting ideas, they're great people, but they just won't take the initiative to do it. Like they don't really think about how they would feel being able to create something like that, but also the impact they could have on society in general, really, just having one more interesting thing. So I love the explanation, but I also just love the idea that you saw a void for something and then we're like, I'll try my best to add to that instead of just gonna complain about it not existing, which is actually more my approach. I just like to complain and I could do more and I don't. So it's nice you do.
Well, I'm just less impressed these days by takes and like recommendations. And I'm much more impressed when someone can put their name on something and regularly ship it. As you're probably aware from doing this pod project, consistently shipping things, especially when it feels like no one is paying attention and being able to work through that phase, I think is a really, really valuable experience. And so minor genius, I think maybe in some ways gives people permission to put out something that's kind of boldly flawed and let that be okay. Like all the nights that we have, like things go wrong all the time. Like the mic's feedback or, a door will slam while we're recording something, or there's just all these little moments that like, sort of make it off. But I think people, they see that and like they think it's funny and it's cool. And it gives them permission to put out the thing that's like maybe not mastered or EQ'd perfectly, but like has some personality and some texture to it.
Yeah, that see, I love that maybe most because I feel a lot of people these days are trying to portray them or their projects as like perfect. Like it's refined, it's polished, they put it out. It's gonna maybe not the best ever, but it's the best they're gonna do and they won't settle for any less. I like when people are like comfortable enough to allow these hiccups along the way and then also gonna present these hiccups like you could be inspiring anyone there at the show who kind of they might have had a preconceived notion like you can't put anything out unless it's perfect, and like any hiccups along the way mean it's a flop. But then they see not that you're up there making constant mistakes, but a door slam or a mic level, they see that and then it might change their thinking and they decide they can put something out that is 98% perfect but not 100, and that's cool. That's maybe another thing I could take a page out of your book. I mean, I this thing isn't perfect in any way. I'm sure anyone listening knows there's hiccups, but I don't know if I like put that out there enough.
Well, we've been doing these literary readings downtown at a place called Nightclub 101, and I go out of my way to book a lot of people who are reading in public for the first time because I think that there's just like a electricity and a sense that there's really something at stake for these folks when they get up at the mic. And the amount of people afterwards that are like, dude, like I never thought I could do that. And I did it. I just think that there's something really fun and special about that. It's kind of like if you're lucky enough to see a band before they blow up, and there's all these little like offnesses about it, but like it works and it's awesome. Like I remember going to all these early LCD shows and like there were always just like problems and little things that went wrong, and like it just made them seem all the more heroic as opposed to like this letter perfect, rehearsed thing that you were just supposed to sit there and like consume.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know this isn't exactly what you're trying to cultivate, and I mean, hopefully, this isn't minimizing what you're doing, but for me at least, I've kind of found that I fit well into. I think it's nice that I'm kind of learning as I go, and I've found that there are people who listen to this who are kind of like rooting for Noah Fast in a way, like they've seen from the beginning, me just talking to, I mean, everyone I've talked to is great and I love them and they're all a piece of the puzzle. But some of the first guests were just like people in my city doing things that I knew about, but no one else really did. And then now I'm able to get people like you or, other people far away from where I am doing really interesting things. And my listeners, I hear from them all the time that they've been listening from the beginning, kind of watch it get a bit better week by week. So I wondered too if maybe not with Minor Genius, but let's say the people you bring in to read for the first time. It's kind of nice to root for these people, even though I can think of some of the people there quite famous. They might not need the rooting, but it's nice for people to kind of like root for them reading for the first time, and then if they read again for a second time or you see them kind of expand on something they learned from one of your shows, it's just nice for people to have someone cheer for and see them like get a bit better week by week or show by show. So I wonder if you experience anything similar to that.
Well, I've been a punk rocker my whole life, so I've always rooted for the underdog, maybe in a lot of ways considered myself an underdog because a lot of the things that I've produced were not immediately legible as like pop culture personality guy influencer stuff. Like it was always a little bit more angular or textured or again to use sort of a term that I like boldly flawed. And so I love those qualities in other people because it just gives them a certain sheen, or maybe the opposite of sheen. It gives them a certain roughness that helps them to like stand out. Like as we're talking, something that comes to mind is like if you ever see someone who's like a really, really, really stylish person, they'll always have a couple aspects of their outfit that are like kind of off, but it's what gives the whole look that finesse. Like they know what perfect is, and so they intentionally subvert it with things that are just a little weird or like strange.
In this scenario, you're saying that they intentionally let these mishaps happen in the outfit, or do you mean like they got it almost perfect, but there's just something wrong that they aren't noticing?
I think the former. I I I can't for sure say that they're doing it on purpose, but it does to me seem like there's a an intentional offness that gives it like a cool quality. Like another example is kind of like in music, Prince comes to mind. Um, if you listen to like early Prince records, there's little details on all the songs that are just sort of strange and like the synth will be too loud on purpose and like he knows that it's too loud on purpose, but the fact that he kept it in makes it so much more dope. So I think that's maybe the gesture that I've always admired and that I try to inject into minor genius is like it's it's kind of okay to have it be funky. I mean, I I, uh, I do all the layout for almost everything that we do. And I'm not by any means a professional graphic designer. And I sort of know that it's wrong, but it's more important that it looks like me or looks like minor genius than it does look professional.
Yeah, I mean I agree with that 1,000,000% because pretty much all the graphics that I've done too, I would say are probably technically wrong, but I
Yeah.
think they're very true to me and to nowhere fast. So I'm like it or not, kind of doing them forever because that's just kind of what's been established. It makes me think actually I've just yesterday was talking to my girlfriend about sort of the same thing. I think it aligns with the point you're making, where people might let something about the outfit look off intentionally. I wonder if people do these things because here we are talking about them, but we wouldn't really be talking about, like, we might acknowledge a perfect outfit, but you wouldn't really talk about it beyond that. So I wonder if people maybe wear a mismatched sock or certain things because they think it'll actually draw more attention to it and it'll be a memorable talking piece after. Like if someone walked into a room and they were wearing a perfect outfit, you might say to a friend like, that person looks really good right now, like that was a great choice what they've done, and then kind of move on. But if they walked into the room with like a 99% outfit, but their collar was folded. Do you mind talk about that more than just acknowledging the outfit? And I always wonder, or lately I've been wondering if people do that on purpose. Like, did Prince do that purposely so that years down the road people would talk about the volume being off?
Well, first off, I just wanted to thank you for opening the door towards a clothing and menswear conversation. As you know, I'm an enormous nerd of men's style, so any excuse to talk about clothes is fun for me. But I was talking with a friend yesterday about the subtle art of dressing really well as a civilian without ever crossing into menswear guy territory. I'm sure if any of our listeners have spent any time on the internet, you'll see that like folks that are into menswear have a very forced, sort of overstudied like look about them. And I've always in my own dressing just tried to not look like I have any connection to the menswear business and more like just a kind of citizen who happens to know how to put a pair of pants and some loafers together. Do you kind of get what I'm scratching at? It's like moving away from like a super studied look and more into something that just kind of feels like it emanates from you naturally.
Yeah, no, it's really rare, especially where I am, but I get the logic, I guess, more than like I've seen it happen. But yeah, I do. I know I have a few friends that look incredible every day, and I don't know how much work behind the scenes is happening, but no, I wouldn't consider them like really men. Like, I know exactly what you mean, internet menswear people. I would say they've avoided that label, but they do look great all the time. And I mean, something I wish I had the secret. It sounds like, if you'll admit it or not, maybe you've been blessed by the secret years ago. But I would love to know how people do that type of thing, like look really good without kind of insisting on it so much.
Well, I think it just comes from the golden rule of life, like know thyself. I think that ultimately what people are looking for in fashion or coolness is just a certain comfortability with who they are. And like anything, it just takes a lot of trials and tribulations. Like Minor Genius hosted a men's clothing swap this weekend, and we just had a small group of guys come and we made little piles, and everyone, tried on different stuff. And it was really interesting because even if it was free, a lot of folks didn't take certain garments because they were just like, yeah, this isn't my style. Like, I wouldn't wear this. And I think that that's kind of the most important part is like you almost have to figure out like what isn't you, and then from that place you start slotting in like the stuff that is you.
I feel like this might be getting so far away from any of the topics you were saying, but I wonder, like, what's your personal opinion on, like, do you think people who kind of say things aren't their style is that, like the cliche thing where people say like, "Oh, I'm never gonna get this promotion or whatever," and then you would say not with that attitude. So do you think people need to like just say like that shirt is my style? I'm gonna pull it off, and that's the start to it maybe being able to be pulled off? Or like are people defeating themselves before they even start by saying it's not for them?
Well, I will say, having spent at this point thousands of hours around clothes and particularly shopping and bullshitting with my friends. sometimes something that you don't think will work on the rack, your friend will recommend it to you and like it winds up looking dope. So I guess maybe, you do have to soften your own ideas of what you can and can't pull off. But I think maybe underneath this is the more interesting question, which is like, how do you pull something off? And I think you pull it off with belief and by just a magic energy granted to you by the style gods that's like, yeah, you could wear the shirt, like go for it. I mean, I live downtown, so I see a lot of people that like they dress pretty strange, but like they look awesome because it's just like it's their thing. I mean, I could never pull it off, but they look amazing. You know, also like a lot of them are like 25. So when you're that age, you can just sort of wear like garbage and like look super sick.
Yeah, I think about there being a like a difference between confidence and arrogance that I think not a lot of people would really understand the distinction, and I don't mean like I'm on another level of understanding or whatever. I just when I was younger, someone maybe one of my parents explained to me there's a difference between like being confident and like just being, like thinking you might be able to do something based on confidence, and then just being like an arrogant, like cocky person who maybe isn't even actually pulling anything off, but you're just saying you are. And people might believe that eventually.
Yeah, I think that's why I've always gravitated towards polo and Ralph's world in particular is because I think it just has a certain lived-in easygoingness to it that to me is like kind of the definition of like not trying too hard. Obviously, like growing up around New York, like I get the appeal of like loud brands and logos and like, wearing things that are very like ostentatious. But at least for me, like I like noticing something about a person's outfit from like a foot away, not from like 3 blocks down the street. And maybe that speaks to that difference between like just kind of having your own more understated confidence versus like, hey, look at me, like I'm a big shot.
When you were younger, like has this kind of been your thought process the whole time, or did you used to like more like peacocky, like showy stuff back then, and then you grew into a more refined look, or have you always liked the subtleness?
I mean, I've always been obsessed with the details since I was probably 9 years old. Like, I remember my mom bought me this dinosaur shirt. I've been really into paleontology my whole life, so I'm like super into dinosaurs. And my mom bought me this dinosaur shirt, and I remember saving it for it was just a t-shirt that was like probably $4, but I remember saving it for like a special occasion to go to my grandma's house because I was like, I want to wear like the really awesome shirt to grandma's house. So I think I've just always had an appetite for the details. I was also like a hardcore teenage punk rocker mod. So I wanted to go and look like the Jam in 1978. Um, Even though there was really nowhere to buy those clothes in New Jersey, but like I've just been obsessed with just the right stuff. Uh, Again, I think some of it comes from just being around New York as a kid. Like, you didn't want, I don't know, Reebok pumps, you wanted Jordans. And you didn't want triple fat goose, you wanted polo. And you didn't want uh, Jordache jeans, you wanted Lee jeans. I mean, I guess to the outsider, like these things are like not overtly big deals, but for me, like they were sort of the difference between like life and death.
Yeah, no, I would err on like closer to you than closer to someone not caring about that for sure. So I don't. Listeners might not get it. I fully get it, and I did. If maybe it was materialistic, maybe a lot for a kid to care about, but I too, there were like brand loyalties, and in the schoolyard, if you didn't have a certain thing, maybe you were thought of as less cool. I just want to interject and ask, when you did finally break out the dinosaur shirt for grandma's, how did that go?
I mean, I adored my grandma, and she adored me back, so it went great. I mean, I think it was, I think it went really well. Um, just to backtrack for a second, though, I think a lot about when you're finding your identity both as a young person and as a grown up now, I think all of us are looking for a certain kind of safety. And some people feel very safe in music, and some people feel very safe in sports and physicality. And I think for me, like I've always found safety in style and in clothing. I mean, it's not really a jump to say that it getting fly was protection for me, because I've been a pretty small dude my whole life. Like I was never the most conventionally masculine. And so I think for me, like I was able to find my place in the group by being like the resident stylist and just using clothing as a way to find my own personal power and my own point of view.
When you were doing that, like from a young age, were you like you were saying you were kind of the style guy in the group? Was it that like black and white, or did you have friends that were also into this stuff, or was it you being into this and kind of showing it to your friends?
It was me, and it was the same was kind of true for music, um, at least until I was like around 16. Like I was kind of like don't get the Rollins Band record. Like you want Black Flag My War. That's the real shit. I was always that person that was kind of maybe helping to guide the taste of those around me. Not, not in a authority. Well, I guess it was kind of authoritative. Yeah, no, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I think I was definitely like the this not that person, which is probably why I'm not interested in doing that as a grown up. Is I kind of got that out of my system as like a snobby punk rock teenager, you know?
Like as a younger, like a teen or younger, or a bit older, when you have these sort of interests and beliefs, like you're talking about, you want one type of jeans, not the other. Was that just for you, or did you find like did you hold the people you were with that accountable as well, or like would you? No, I mean it sounds more arrogant than it is, I guess. But were you friends with more laissez-faire people who didn't pay attention to that, or did you surround yourself with like equally as strict style people?
Uh, well, there weren't a lot of cool people in my high school. And so even finding anyone who was remotely interested in music was rare. I mean, I had to settle for like 311 and Primus in my friend group because there weren't really any older, cooler punk kids uh, to show me better. So I don't know. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, again, that could be something that maybe people don't fully understand that, but personally, I get it for sure. I understand. Like,
I also think I just have like a sort of sensitive radar towards like weaponized coolness. Uh, and I go out of my way with minor genius to subtly subvert that. Like it's everyone is welcome, but we're not going to change what we're about to make you feel more comfortable. And I think people really appreciate that because like if you show up to one of our parties, you know that everyone else there gets it. And so there's no need for me or anyone else to explain it to you because it's implied that if you left the house to come here and maybe you have a certain little detail of your outfit that like you're one of us.
yeah, which is, I mean, someone listening could argue that that might be not as accessible, but to me, that feels like extremely accessible, like a very welcoming place. And it's not, I mean, my understanding of it, it's not like anyone on the outside is bad. It's just this event is for people on the inside.
I wouldn't even say the inside. I think it's more people that share a certain taste level and are probably hungry for recognition. Like it's fun when you can walk into any room and be like, "Hey, I noticed your outfit," or like, "Oh, cool, I see you're wearing a band pin. I like those guys." And it gives the room a certain warmth and a certain energy to it that I think you can't really get from the feed and from social media, you know? A big reason why Minor Geniuses publishes zines and puts out artifacts and host rooms is because I think it's really fun to have something that you can really feel and point to in real time and isn't just like audience growth, internet personality stuff, which for me just isn't like, I don't know, I don't get too hype about it.
Yeah, lately I've been getting really frustrated with it all. Like I was pretty complacent and I was okay with the way the internet kind of like worked with all this stuff, and just recently I've been kind of pushing back against it and thinking about more things that you could do like in real life and how to like contribute, like cool air quotes again, like cool stuff to the world, because I feel like an aesthetic Instagram or whatever is, it used to help. It was a nice piece of the puzzle to get like a project seen by more people, but now it just feels kind of forced and kind of like futile in a way too. I mean, I'm jealous that you also live in a city where in-person events can be like bigger than any internet that I could reach, but for me it's harder to do things in real life in a smaller place and have like a crowd or like feel any reward for it all.
Well, you'll be jealous until you see like what I pay every year in rent, you know. It's a heavy it's a heavy tax for for that kind of access. But yeah, I mean I think like what you're gesturing towards here, and I think a lot of folks listening will pick up on this, is like the best scenes are all built on people putting in effort and showing up. Like punk rock and especially hardcore really were able to take off as legitimate movements because you had to surrender a lot to become a punk rocker. And I was a punk rocker in the mid 90s, which is very different from being a punk rocker in 1982. But like, you know, I had to sacrifice being accepted by like the cool kids in order to claim that I was a punk. But once I did that, I met all my friends. I basically owe my entire life and my career to that culture. And I think that you could only get something special back when you're willing to surrender your convenience. And I think that's why a lot of this influencer, Instagram stuff is like kind of comes off like a warm Pepsi, is like it's not really asking much of you. It's just like, okay, cool, like sit here and swipe. Whereas in with Minor Genius, like we're asking people to get out of the house and put on a cute outfit and maybe risk reading in public the first time or like asking that person to work with you on a project. Like there's a certain tension and electricity that um, for me just feels really exciting and spicy.
Yeah, I mean, even with the expensive rent, I think I'm very jealous and envious, and just watching, seeing glimpses of what you've been doing just through the scroll, which is kind of the worst way to see it. It still seems very interesting, very impressive, very jealous. It makes me jealous again, even with the rent.
Well, thank you. I mean, I've been working with two really cool photographers to capture our events. This one guy, Miles Bridges, that's a basketball player, Miles Miller, and the second guy, Zane Gann, Gan. I recommend you check out both of them on Instagram. But when they come back with the photos from the party, I tell them I was like, dude, this party looks sick. Like I almost view it as like an outsider to our event because I was like, man, like this really happened. Like I want to go to these parties. Like these people look awesome. This looks like so much fun. And I think that people maybe feel corny or weird or sentimental about being fans of their own stuff, but I think that's actually a really key ingredient. Like I just published a zine of poems, and after I had it printed and I read like my test copy, I was like, this is really good. Like these are really funny. And I think that like, we don't give ourselves enough credit to like enjoy the fruits of our work. And we're just like, all right, like pumped out another podcast or like art directed another project. But I think it's really important to enjoy what you look at as an outsider and be like, this is kind of sick.
Yeah, I constantly try to look at things I've done from like I try to. I mean, if I had one of those like Men in Black memory erasers, I would love to hit myself with one and then look at what I'm doing as a complete outsider and see like would I like this or not. And I'm getting a bit better at it. I've seen a lot of kind of discourse online and stuff with people kind of talking about, like if we're all normalizing a bunch of stuff, maybe we should normalize people like being fans and like proud of their own stuff, and maybe not call someone like posting their own newsletter cringe or whatever. Like people are too quick to cringe or be embarrassed, and I think it gets in the way of them promoting something that they worked quite hard on. Like years ago, I feel if someone put hours or days or months or years even into something, they would be welcomed by everyone to like talk about this thing and get people into it. And now it feels like, posted like even me posting these episodes every week. I'm sure people have thought that's cringe, but it's funny. Like, how is anyone gonna put their work out into the world without talking about it?
Yeah, well, I think anybody who's created something consistently admires other people who do the same because they know what it takes. I mean, this is obviously not a shocking revelation, but like the people who are the quickest to criticize often produce the least. And I think that with minor genius, I mean, obviously the name says it all. It's like you don't have to be like some super important established person to have the right to be a part of culture and to put your voice out there. You know, like you don't need to be anointed by anybody to be a musician or to make a zine or to start a brand or to start a party or to start a podcast. Um, and I think that, cringe and words like that are, with the first thing that came to mind is like, shadow projection. It's like people just take their own insecurities and like put it onto somebody else. But I don't know. I'd let 1,000 podcasts bloom, I say. I'd rather see people doing stuff than not doing stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, even from our first talk and looking back at a bunch of your stuff, I think you've had like the again, maybe this is the confidence over arrogance. I feel you've been confident to make that type of stuff or to like tell people to make that and kind of like let your friends or peers know that they should be putting out that stuff if that's what they feel is kind of true to them. And maybe not actually announcing like fight back against the cringe or whatever, but I do feel that you've always kind of made it seem like it's cool to care type thing, and if people want to make this stuff they should. Like, is that was that always your thought process? Like before we met and before I started paying attention to your stuff, have you always kind of been promoting like authenticity and like be yourself? And if you feel like putting in a piece of content that might be considered cringe or whatever, like have you always thought just do it? Or like is that you had to learn that with time?
Well, I think my work and minor genius in particular was always like an anti-loneliness machine sort of masquerading across different projects. Like I found that for me, I met all of my closest friends through records and rugbies and Andre Agassi sneakers and Beastie Boys VHSs. And so my sort of line of thinking was, well, if I met cool people through what they made, maybe if I made cool stuff, I could make more friends. And I mean, I'm 45 years old, and this is still the main driver behind everything else of Minor Genius is putting out stuff so that you can make friends. Like, I love the fact that because of our rapport, I now could come to your city and we could hang out and have a cool meal because you read a zine that I made like 2 years ago and thought it was interesting. And that's why I'm so sort of bullish about people making stuff is like it allows your people to find you in a way that like the feed or the internet can never really do.
Yeah, that I mean, way, way better and more eloquent way to say what I was trying to say. That's a way better, like way more helpful to make people understand what I was trying to get at. I like that and appreciate that for kind of saving me from my own words here.
Well, I also like want to maybe say the quiet part out loud is that like I'm not some super special person who doesn't look for validation or outside support for things that I've done. I think that maybe the thing that I've figured out is that it's possible to have seasons in your life that are a little bit more quiet, where maybe there isn't a ton of applause or recognition or money or like props, but as long as you keep shipping and sending out the signal through those periods, over time, the quote unquote right people will find you. So again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm this hyper confident guy that's like, hey, I could put out this zine or throw this event and like, I don't care who comes. Like, I completely care who comes. Like, as my wife can tell you, like the first 15 minutes before I'm hosting an event, I am like a nightmare person because I'm like, what if no one showed up? What if this is the one party that like is terrible and nobody wants to come? Or what if this zine is like a real stinker and it, it tarnishes the brand? Like I have all those fears, but um I think just consistently making stuff, it decreases the importance of any one moment. You probably know this better than I do as a pod host. Like any one episode doesn't really matter because at this point, you've built up a body of work and a discography that is more important than any one particular guest or any one particular hour of time.
Oh yeah. First of all, Sarah's gonna listen to this and laugh because I'm the exact same. The lead up to any event, I'm like, if opening minute is not full, I'm like, I'm quitting. There, I'm never doing a pod again. I'm deleting all media and like moving to the woods. I'm so bad about that too, so I relate to that. But also what you're saying, I like it. It did take me a bit, but recently I definitely believe exactly what you're talking about. Like though one single episode, it could be anyone. It doesn't necessarily matter. It's the whole thing that matters. It's like I don't really necessarily care about who. I mean, again, like I care a lot, but it's not one episode. Like I don't really care about the listens on one episode. I care about like the subscribers to the whole thing. Like who pops in every now and then and listens to stuff. Like I was reading an article the other day about how like now kind of 2026 or the future of marketing, whatever, it's not like episode retention, it's like podcast retention. So maybe it takes like 10 episodes to get someone to subscribe, but you need to put out those 10 to have someone eventually like it. So I agree with that. It's kind of new. I had to like condition myself to think that way. But now I kind of see it all as an entity, and the consistency of it all is the main, maybe not the main, but a huge factor as far as a year or two ago I would have thought like if this one episode didn't do that great, the whole thing is kind of pointless. But now I'm like, okay, if this one doesn't do that well, but just over the next like quarter, it's doing okay. That's kind of where I place my like emphasis these days. But it took a while to get there.
Do you follow basketball at all?
No, that it's so funny. I like to, just get better as time goes. So I'm always trying to like add stuff to my like repertoire. And I've kind of hockey was first, and then baseball and basketball is next on my list. But I actually don't know anything about it really. And someone was kind of asking me just yesterday if I was into it, so I was kind of telling them the exact same spiel. But no, I mean, whatever you're gonna say, I am a complete novice and have no idea about basketball. But please make the reference anyway.
Well, I was gonna say I'm a huge Knicks fan, and I watch every game and I watch every post game to get analysis and storylines and all that stuff. And I can tell you from watching a very up and down, insanely inconsistent team the last year and a half that like you can't get too high or too low over any one game. So I think you kind of almost sometimes it was helpful for me to think of Minor Genius as like my favorite sports team. And like sometimes we have really great games where everything is executing well. Other times we're just like a shambles and it's embarrassing. And like as long as you have a culture and a point of view that is mainly consistent, like you'll be okay. You'll be all right.
So you think when I do finally get into basketball, I guess I gotta pick a team, right? Like I'm so far away from any city with a team. I don't know who I would go with.
Yeah, so pick the Knicks because we have the best fans and it's the best media market in the world, and it's like the Knicks. Like the Knicks are the polo of basketball.
And I mean, the colors. Maybe to someone like me that barely understands the colors do matter, but the Knicks colors are the same colors as the Edmonton Oilers, which I'm forced to be a fan of through thick and thin. So maybe the Knicks makes sense because it's blue and orange as well.
Yeah, plus like, if you get into both teams, you can wear like an Oilers hat with like a Knicks sweatshirt and like it won't clash too bad. So you also can, have an easier time putting outfits together.
I mean, uh, I don't even know. I'm sure so many people listening are gonna hate this, but I do wear a New York Mets fitted to Oilers games, but only for the color. Like I don't know anything about the Mets, but the orange and the blue, I did like Oilers make the most hideous merch ever. So if I want to wear a hat to support the team, I'll wear Mets color wise.
I'm also a Mets fan, so I'll give you some props on that tip. Um,
That's good. I didn't know. As I was saying that, I was like waiting for a New York stance on it. Like a lot of people I talk to from there are more either neither or maybe Yankees over the Mets. Have you always been a Mets fan, like since you were younger?
yes, hardcore since I was 6 years old. Always been a Mets fan. I mean, I'm the sort of person where if I like something, I really like it. And when I get into something, I throw myself fully uh prematurely into it without really any end game. I mean, uh my TV show, my zines, all those things, my tie company back in the day, like all those things were just started as like, I'm gonna go do this. And like I sort of figure it out as I go along and I don't know, just kind of like trust the adventure. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm like a more instinctive person when it comes to stuff like that.
Do you stay loyal or like stay interested in most things? Like you've been an Knicks and a Mets fan forever. There's like assuming you don't dress as punk anymore, but are you still like listening and a fan of the whole culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think that stuff that you love just gets inside your bones. It's not really like I think at some point it stops becoming like a performative lifestyle choice and it's more just like, yeah, of course I'm into this. Of course I like this. Um, that said, I'm always looking to sort of subvert my own expectations and do things that I didn't think I would wind up doing. It's how I wound up with a very expensive jujitsu hobby in my 40s. I was like, oh, I'll give this a shot, and now I've just become like. In fact, I'm in a few moments, I'm going to go to train and get beat up by a bunch of big guys, which will be fun.
Is that with the jujitsu, do you feel yourself like progressing as you're into it, or are you just like loving the act of it?
Uh, I feel myself progressing And by progressing, I mean that I've been doing this for 2.5 years at a minimum 3 times a week. And I think that I've gone from like extra, extra, extra terrible to now extra, extra terrible. Like in 2.5 years, I've been able to remove one small micro layer of terribleness from my jujitsu practice. But for me, it's like night and day. Like I was just telling my sensei yesterday, is like it's just starting to become fun. Like this is maybe the first month where I don't feel completely like just destroyed psychologically and physically when I go to roll.
That amazing. Actually, that's something I would have never thought to bring up, but I'll take the opportunity now. I think certain like people disagree with me all the time, but I think having a hobby or a new passion that you don't get like drastically better really quick, I think that to me at least that would keep me doing that thing because I think if like say you went in and you got extremely good overnight, like to me it would be almost more boring. Like I wouldn't want to keep doing it because it was so easy to get better at it. It's like the pushback and the agony of trying to grow in something kind of would personally make me want to keep at it and keep growing. Like this thing, for instance, the pod exactly, it's got maybe 1% better every month, but to me, that's great. And I think if it got really good all of a sudden, I might have already kind of lost some steam and some interest.
Hmm. Well, also, it takes a lot of inner conviction to keep shipping even when things are quiet. And I think that's what the last couple of years have taught me is, even despite the ups and downs of my moods or my business or other things that were going on in my life, I I was really disciplined about always shipping the next zine, always hosting the next event, and always focusing on the next artifact. And like jujitsu, actually, not to be the annoying middle-aged person that's like, jujitsu changed my life, but jujitsu completely changed my life because it showed me that I was capable of failing and being really shitty over and over and over again. And like, that's all good. It also showed me that like having a crew of people in the room with you is critical, which is again why the minor genius events have become such a special thing and a little bit of an accidental scene here in New York is because when you're with other people that are in rhythm and get it, you stop feeling so lonely and like you have to have everything figured out on your own. It's like you can like unclench your butt cheeks for a little bit and just be like, ah, cool, like it's fine. Everyone else here is like getting their ass kicked too. Or everyone else here has great shoes. I finally feel like I found my people.
That the very perfect. See that like listening to you talk and you explain these things, I feel like even worse at conversation and vocabulary and diction. Just like I could listen to you explain these somewhat simple things with such like poise and conviction. It's really cool. I mean, I know you have to get to this jujitsu appointment, so I don't want to eat up any more of your day than I already have. But before we go, is there anything you would like to kind of say about minor genius that I didn't let you say throughout the conversation? Like, I don't want to leave without you making all the points you came to make.
Thank you. Well, first off, we talked about this before we started recording, but I just wanted to take this moment to personally thank you for having me on again, because the first time I met so many cool people as a direct result of being on this pod who now come to the minor genius parties or hit me up on email and we're just like, "Hey, I like what you're doing. Like, can we talk?" Like, it's really been a wonderful proof that putting out the right artifacts is actually a great way to make friends. So I wanted to thank you for helping me make some really nice friends, not just you and I, but all the folks that have reached out. Um, in terms of some other stuff, if you'll allow me a very gentle plug, um, Minor Genius, the imprint, publishes zines and hosts parties, and will soon be releasing a video magazine, as well as a series of really cool fashion accessories. So if anybody wants to come join, it's minorgenius.xyz. And then inside of Minor Genius, I have a very discreet, private one-on-one studio where I work with people to produce and ship magazines, films, short films, brands. So if you are a person who has a project that you want to put out into the world, you can hit me up and we can see if it's a good fit for the Minor Genius studio. And that is studio.minorgenius.xyz. And obviously, we're on Instagram, minorgenius.xyz. And yeah, basically, like if anything inside of you moved while hearing this, come and become a minor genius with us. Like, I think we have a really fun little accidental scene going on. And if you're into style and making stuff and think that Nowhere Fast is dope, and you understand that Wes actually pioneered green as a brand thing, I just want to give you your flowers for being pre-Brat. Um, Come and hit us up. We're here and we're going to be taking the party to different cities around the world. So yeah, that's what I got. But I had a really swell time talking to you, and again, I'm just very happy to be brought back into your space. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I actually would have forgot to circle back to a bit of praise of each of us. I also talked to so many people who found the first one useful, so I'm very honored to have you back. Like I was saying, it was almost exactly a year ago, so I guess third episode is a year from now. I guess I'll see you next March.
Sounds good. All right. Peace and love. I'll see you at the next Knicks game.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right. Peace. Thanks again. Bye.
See ya.